When you're building something worth bragging about, whether it's a resto mod, a track toy, or your next garage masterpiece, there's no shortcut to doing it right, and doing it right starts with the equipment you can trust. That's where the Millermatic 211 Pro comes in. This machine is built for long days in the shop, delivering both MIG and flux cord welding performance you can count on. With USB enabled upgrades, auto set feature, a higher duty cycle, a 15-foot MIG gun, and dense connections, it's engineered to keep you welding all day, every day, with no drama or downtime, just results. It's compact, it's tough, and it's ready for the moment you flip the switch. So if you're serious about building stronger, cleaner, and faster, check out the Millermatic 211 Pro at millerwelds.com or hit up your nearest Miller distributor today. Welcome to another episode of the Strange Motion Way podcast. I'm your host, Tim Strange, and back from a Hot Rod Power Tour, finally, is
Carrie Strange.
You've kind of dipped out of a couple, but you're back now for a little bit.
Bear with me. My voice is coming and going today.
So our guest here, he is coming out of a non-racing hotbed of Cleveland, Ohio. And he made it all the way, what I call the big show, NHRA. He raced from, I think, 1994 to 2003. He had big sponsors on his funny car, from Matco to Mopar. And I think he would battle for that. What was that one guy's name that used to race? John Force. Used to battle for the biggest, smokiest burnouts. Definitely a fan favorite. And I can say this because I've had a TV show. One of the coolest, funniest, entertaining weekend morning TV shows. He was co-host of Popular Hotrodding TV. Welcome today, Dean Skuza.
Hello. Nice to be with you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we've been trying to get this one for a while, and we're going to talk about how he got to where he is, what he's doing now. But you've kind of like disappeared a little bit. I found you on Instagram, and you're not around racing much anymore, but we'll get to that. So let's go back to little Dean Skuza growing up. Did you grow up around any family members that were car people, drag racers, or how did all this start?
It was all my dad. I was into street stuff, I had a 70 Challenger. That was my first car. But he was the one that really was responsible for us getting into racing. Before I was born, he had a 421 Pontiac. That was probably his best, most competitive car. Got married, started his business, and just forgot about it. That would have been 63. And it wasn't until, I'm thinking it was like 81 or 82, he had a boat up by Sandusky, which is close to Norwalk. And he had heard some radio ads.
Is
and he
it
asked me to
Sandusky
go. I was
where,
fishing. And he's like, hey, do you want to go to the World Nationals out at Norwalk? I was like, nah, I think I'll just go fishing today. I'll see you when you get back, though. He came back and he was just like, he couldn't stop talking about it. He's like, they're in the fives. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I think the fastest run he had ever seen was sevens. The top fuel cars were running sevens. So that was a Friday. We went the next day. He's like, you are not saying no. You've got to see this. And that was it. I mean, from that day, I think that was 82, all the way till 2003, my entire life was drag racing.
Wow.
And I remember, I forget where I was. I was at a seminar and we had to fill out some questionnaires. This would have been like 98. And it was like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, holy shit, I race cars. I just was so involved with it. I didn't even, it starts out like bracket racing. Then we put a blower on it. Then we started, let's build a fuel altered. And then we got a payroll with hospitalization and insurance and shops and $1 million budgets before I even exhaled. And if you ask my dad, he said the same thing. He's like, this thing just got big fast. Because I think that's what, like when you got a passion for something, you don't sit around and think about stuff. You just keep moving forward.
Yeah, you're all
forward. And that's how that racing went. But it was all him. Like I said, I had a Challenger, and as a matter of fact, when he said, let's build a car, that's the kind of car I was thinking. Like, let's just take my Challenger, take the 318 out of it. Let's look for a Hemi. He always thinks way bigger than me. He's like, yeah, that's your transportation. Let's build a purpose-built car. And he always does things right. Like, I try to talk him out of stuff. He's like, we need an 18-wheeler. I'm like, yeah, but we could get another couple short blocks. He's like, Dean, I'm telling you, without that, you're not going to get a sponsor. And he was right. In the shop, he was right. We can't work out of a garage with a professional, you got 8 guys working in this little garage. You got to have a shop. So, yeah, like when people always talk about my career, I always say, no, it's my dad. He's the one that did it.
Yeah. So if you just went hog wild in the racing summer, how you want to ask him how good of a student he was?
Yeah. So growing up in school, what kind of a student were you?
I was really good. As a matter of fact, I was top of my class until my senior year. And then because I had already been accepted to college, and I just took like a year off. And man, to this day, that pisses me off. At the time, it seemed like the cool thing to do, angsty thing to do. But I always, I went from like number 1 in my class to like number 80. And I didn't really have much more fun. So it was a bad move. But, I was a good student. I like to say I'm an autodidact. I didn't learn anything in school or university. Everything I learned in my life was books. And I just, like, again, my dad showed me that. He didn't like outwardly tell me that, like, get a book, but whatever he was into, whether it be fishing or snowmobiling, he would be at the bookstore. This is prior to the internet or the newsstand. There was a place called Romito's in Garfield Heights here that is the biggest newsstand in Cleveland area. I mean, it just went on for miles, and they had periodicals on everything. So what I learned from my dad is, like, if you want to get into something, read about it. And kids these days, you don't have to go to college. It's all there on your phone or computer. You don't have to. I mean, college is good if you need, like, all it shows me is like someone knows how to get to class on time, or do their homework on time, do clothes on their own. Shit, anyone can do that. If you want to learn something, just get a book, man.
Some comedian or something said that, or maybe it was in some movie I watched. He says, college, if you graduate college, it pretty much just proves to your future employer that you can show up, complete your tasks for 4 or 5, 6 years, how many you go to college, and that you show up to do your job, because then that's kind of proven. I'm not you got to have a degree type of person. I'm more of a show me what you can do, or your experience or something like that. Yeah.
We're in agreement there. As a matter of fact, the degradation of the college education it's just sad to see. It's more of an indoctrination, but I don't want to get political here, but if you're going to spend that kind of money, it would, and I'm not talking about professional, if you want to be even a lawyer, you don't need to really go to law school, but passing that bar would be a bitch without it. I guess that's what law school is basically preparing you to pass the hardest test there is in the world. Or if you're going to be an architect, it may be nice to have some guidance when you're talking about structural integrity, but all these other degrees are it's just a waste of money, in my opinion. But
agreed. So were you into any sports or any clubs or anything in school?
I was into sports. I played baseball and basketball, football, up until I started noticing girls, and then in cars, and then I just quit them all. I think that's just my generation, though.
Yeah. So you get out. What was your first? Did you have like a job in high school?
Actually, the first job I ever had was at my dad's company. And I think it was just him being a good salesman, because my parents had just gotten a divorce, and this was in the summers when I was off school. I wasn't quite old enough to stay home alone. So it was like the Tom Sawyer painting the fence thing. He's like, hey, you could use some extra money. Why don't you come to work with me? And he sold it to me. I didn't realize that till years later that's what that was. But it really was good, because I had my own money. I bought my first dirt bikes with that money, and he didn't have to get a babysitter. So it was a win-win.
What was your dad's business?
Quality synthetic rubber. He sold that in about 2000, 2001. He manufactured micro miniature rubber components primarily for the automotive industry. All the weather pack, that was his invention. If you look under the hood of any car, you see all the electrical connections.
Yeah.
Self-bleeding silicone rubber, which again was his invention. Started
Did
out
he,
very
like, patent
small.
that?
I'm
Did he
sorry?
patent it? Did he patent it and gets
Absolutely.
like kickback?
Yep.
Oh wow, that's cool.
As it turned out, in the end, the manufacturing technique is so precise that the patent wasn't even necessary because nobody could copy it. Many people had tried, went out of business trying. But he didn't start out in the automotive industry. He had a couple salesmen that really got him in. Very difficult to get into the automotive. So much easier to get into pharmaceutical. You would think it would be the other way around. Pharmaceutical, I mean, the quality control of pharma is nothing compared to automotive. That is a scary thing, but it's true because he manufactured both things. He manufactured really sophisticated orifices for drips and IVs. And those things, they had no quality control. The Q9000 that Ford had implemented, 0 rejects. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but he was shipping literal hundreds of millions of parts a day. A lot of them microscopic, and they could have 0 rejects.
Wow. That's crazy. That's kind of cool. And earlier you said Sandusky. That's, what was the guy? It was the auto parts king, right? In the Tommy Boy movie, he was from Sandusky, right?
Yeah. I got one of those shirts. California Auto Parts.
Yeah.
Awesome. You could tell they ripped off the Scott's logo for that. Like the production company, whoever produced that movie. If you look at it, it's the Scott's, fertilizer logo.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Why work hard? Just copy something.
I need to go watch it again now. So then, did you go to college? You said something about college. Did you go to college for a little bit?
Yeah, went to Ohio University. I was already looking at my watch the day I walked in. I wish I could go do it all over again. I just wasn't ready to learn. I wanted to get into life. I didn't get anything out of it. Matter of fact, I was reading, if you talk to me a lot, you're going to hear this little intro a lot. I always say, I was reading an article because I read incessantly. I cannot stop. Since the age of about 30, I just read everything all day long. And I was reading an article. What was I even talking about here? What were we talking about? College?
Yeah, college and not wanting to learn.
Yeah, I was reading an article about in South Korea that when you graduate the equivalent of our high school, you have to serve in the military for 4 years. And then you could go to university or trade school. And man, I'm just thinking that would be such a great idea, because if I would have just done that, or not the military, do anything for 4 years, how about a job, a menial job, and now say, hey, do you want to go learn a trade or, go to college? I would have been way more receptive to learning after being a ditch digger for 4 years. And I think everybody should do that. I think most kids at 18 aren't ready to, at least I wasn't. And I admire the kids that know what they want to do and go do it and are successful at it. Because that was not me.
I
still don't know what
you're
the hell I
right. I
want
think
to
a
do.
lot of them are like that, and they go down. They spend money for 2 years on a degree, and then they're changing degrees and
have to retake classes or transfer to a different college. We've seen some of our BMX kids do that. But I always knew what I wanted to do. I was going to be a hot rod builder. I should have maybe stayed in a different type of college, but we got Lily that was just here. She wants to be a school teacher, but there's a lot of kids that we know, they can be 24 years old. They still don't know what they want to do. I'm not sure if I want to do what I'm doing now for the rest of
I'm 50 and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do.
That's me. Like we just liquidated we had 2 buildings. We had our old race shop, and then we had purchased a building right next to us for kind of our showroom of all our classic cars that we were accumulating, buying, selling, restoring. And we just sold both of those buildings. And now it's like, we're watching our grandson for the summer, but after the summer's over, it's like, I think I'll be looking for my next adventure because
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything right now. So I got to find that other passionate project, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long did you go to college? Did we say that? How long were
Yeah,
you there?
4 years,
Oh, okay.
85 through 90.
And then at the same time, when you got in, were you still racing some while you were going to college?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had, trying to tie this together without getting long-winded, started racing in like 83. And I was also in a pretty good band at the time too. And we were thinking about maybe even recording, and I almost didn't go to college because of it. I told my dad, I said, I think I'm just going to try this out with the band for a year. He was like, no, you get, so I did, that was out. And the racing too. I went home a lot. I went to OU, and that was about 3.5, 4 hour drive. I could make it in about an hour and a half at night. Yeah, lights off, radar detector full. I must have done that 1,000 times. But yeah, we were racing during that time too.
You say allegedly because if if your grandkid watches this, you say allegedly because then it could be a made up story, and they're like, "But Grandpa, you said." Yeah.
He's he's 8 going on like 25 in a lot of ways. And then in a lot of ways he's 8.
Yeah.
But he's a good kid, good, smart as a whip. Jeez.
Awesome.
So you're doing the racing. So we're gonna take a detour here. We're big music fans. We go to a lot of shows. Like
yeah, I know. I see your channel. You go to all the shows I wish I was going to.
yeah. Luckily we live by Nashville now, so almost everybody comes through, and we got concert venues 20 minutes up the road. And so, what kind of music were you playing, and what were you doing in the band?
Well, see, back then, I came from a part of Ohio that was, I don't want to run it through the mud here, but it was kind of like not cultured. We were still kind of stuck in the 70s, like the culture, like a lot of Zeppelin and stuff like that. And when I went to college in 85, and it was like a culture shock. People were into the Thompson twins and like, what the hell is this shit? Half your head shaved. I was like, we were still had the long hair with the bell bottoms, So the music I was into was like usually classic rock, Zeppelin, Sabbath. Matter of fact, our first band that I got into. But then I quickly, the kid across, he wasn't my roommate, but he was from Wadsworth. He knew Venny's actually. He lived real close to Todd Venny. And he was into punk, and he introduced me to it. He had a great record collection. And he was the kind of guy that always had his dorm room door open. And he kind of just was always in the doorway looking to invite people in, And so I introduced myself, and I went in there, and he had everything in alphabetical order. All his vinyl were in the plastic, took care of them. And that's where I got into Minor Threat, Dead Milkman, all of that stuff. I'm like, God, this stuff is so easy. Almost anybody could play it, That's the beauty of it. You don't have to be, to play Zeppelin, you got to be a damn good musician. And to play this shit, power chords, you could teach a girl how to do it in a week, and you're going to go out and have fun. And so it was a whole new culture shock for me. And I'm still into it. I still love Social D, and some of my favorite bands are punk rock stuff now. Trying to indoctrinate my kid or my grandson into punk music and rock and roll, but he ain't having it, man. I'm trying, but uphill battle.
We don't have our own kids, so we have like BMX kids. We sponsor some BMX racers, and we just had Lily that was on this last podcast. She's been here for 6 weeks. She went back to Iowa now, where she's from, and we took her to a couple punk shows, and she's just like, it's okay. And one of her college friends, she's kind of a punk rock girl. Her dad's a punker, and she just she likes music, but she's not one of them people like, what's your favorite band? Well, I don't know. Me and her, we're like we just love music. We got concert posters lined the hallway here, Like
Mhm.
even my dad grew up, he was a Zeppelin, Jim Croce, that's what the 8-track that dad had. And he hated country music. And for some kid to be like not really into music, but I spent a lot of time by myself in the shop, so I got music going all the time. So so what did you play in the band?
I'm a drummer by trade, but
Okay.
since kindergarten, excuse me. But like Dave Grohl, I picked up the guitar just from watching. We'd practice, and I would always be watching the guitar player. And then after practice, I would say, "Hey, show me how you do that part of this song." And I picked it up relatively easily because I was young. Um,
Mhm.
I always say that to like my grandson. He's 8. I said, if you want to learn something, let's start now because your brain is so receptive to language, to music. Let's do it now because you try to do it later on, it's an uphill battle. And I see how he
Yeah.
picks up stuff. Like right now, the latest passion is baseball. That is my life right now. And we go out and we do drills every day with hitting. And he's got a Barry Bonds swing. He's receptive. He'll put the work in, even
Yeah.
if it's not fun.
Dude, when I was a kid, when you were into sports, you could be in multiple sports. I was always into BMX. I played junior high football, a little basketball and stuff. But
Yeah.
like now, my best friends I grew up with back in Illinois, his daughter is junior high and she is into softball. They do softball like 9 days a week. They have
Yeah.
coaches. They go over here for batting practice and this, and then she's on a local team and a travel team. And he goes, my life is just softball. Just when now the kids, I mean, BMX is the same way because you have to travel, but they get so immersed. It's like it's rare anymore that I see with high school kids that you can play. Oh, I play basketball, I run track, and I do football, but because it's like almost year round. If they're not competing, they're training for that specific sport.
As long as they're not getting burned out, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if you see someone passionate about something, you got to nurture it. But in a lot of cases, I see it, the parents pushing.
yeah.
I don't think that's good for anybody.
No,
Agreed.
no. Yeah, we see that sometimes at the BMX track. It's the parent living vicariously through their kid. And I see a dad, me and her, we still ride some. And like if I see a parent screaming at their kid, I'd be like, here's my bike, bro. Go give it a whirl. I'm going to scream at you, pedal, pedal, pedal. See how you like it. Yeah, and that doesn't usually end well. But
It's the same with moto. You see a lot of that because, the parents are so involved. They have to be, these kids are young, but it's a fine line. I find myself doing it. The parenting, coaching, it's the toughest job in the world. Being a parent, and just like I said, I read a lot of books. I think it just confuses you more. Like I know what the right thing to do is. It's just now go do it in the heat of the moment when he's back talking you. I'm not going to pull out the Dr. Spock. Hold on, hold that thought. Oh, let's use our words. That's not how parenting is. I wasn't prepared for it. I thought I was. We got 2 sons and a grandson, and made a lot of mistakes, and just that's part of it, I guess.
So we'll kind of jump out of order here. So while we're talking about kids and family, when did you have your kids? Were you like full on professional racer at that time and not home a lot when you had your kids, or was that before or after?
Yeah, Donnie was born in '97, right in the middle of it. He started coming to track pretty early. He had a frequent flyer. He was getting upgrades by the time he was 2.5. He went to a lot of the races. He was born around it. But by the time Danny came around 9 years later, we had just closed we stopped racing. So he didn't get to see any of it. But yeah, that was having that tour is really, I think at the time it was 23 races. It doesn't sound like a lot, but, and then doing that TV show for every off weekend I had, we were scheduling the taping of that popular hot rodding show for a few years.
Okay, so let's jump back a little bit. So
sure, yeah, just lead me where you want to go, man.
Yeah, so I do that. My ADHD. I was never diagnosed, but I'm sure I have all that alphabet, whatever stuff.
I'm long-winded too, so you got to cut me off.
No, that's awesome. That's what makes a great interview. So okay, so you were what were you doing? Did you get a job someplace before you went full-time racing? When you built like the altered car, were you still working at your dad's company at that time?
Yeah. Yeah, after I got out of school, I was working at, we were building we were building a car for IHRA. We were building we had a Murph car. It was a 91 chassis, I believe, or a 90 chassis. And then
Which
we
at
got
that time, IHRA, our local track was IHRA a lot. We grew up by Cordova, Illinois, where they
yeah,
have the World Series. And that was
there's
our
no
local
way
track.
in hell we were ever going to build an NHRA car. There's no way we could afford it. So what we did is we got the Murph car and we had them build it to a weird spec. It had a very short tree on the back so we could put a Fiat body. And what I did is I bought excuse me, an AI fiberglass at the time. They're no longer around, but they made the best Topolinos in my opinion. And I molded a 34 Ford roof in it and put in a regular escape hatch in it. And that was going to be a fuel altered that we were going to run. And then we also had the probe body that you probably have seen before, the yellow and the purple. And that was going to be for IHRA. And we did. We went to one IHRA, but as soon as we got done with it and we were about ready to start getting licensing, IHRA announced that they're dropping the class. And we were like, oh, you got to be kidding. What the hell are we going to do, you know? And then we decided, we went to Epping in 92, qualified, went one round actually. That was the first time I ever rode alongside another car. And Brett Kepner was doing the interview. I'll never forget that. You know, I get out of the car and he's like, Dean Skuza from Brecksville, Ohio. I'm like, how the hell does this guy even know who I am? And I even said something after the interview was over. I said, how did you know all that stuff? Because this is what I do for a living, kid, you know. Yeah. I was really, really impressed. That guy knows more about drag racing. Him and Bob Fry and Lewis Bloom together in a room. It's like the brain power is amazing.
And now Brian Loans is that modern version of that walking encyclopedia guy. Yeah.
You got to have that, you know. Steve Evans, you know, people always talk about how great he was, but what he was really good at, I mean, he was a great on-camera guy, no question, had the voice. But his knowledge, you know, he ran Orange County. He knew the sport. He knew what was happening before it happened. And as an announcer, as you know, you do a lot of MC work. You got to know what you're talking about. You can't just be what he would refer to as a pipes, you know, some network affiliate guy that they're going to bring in, like a Don Trumpy or something. You got to know what you're talking about.
A lot of announcers and stuff, and like, to me, the modern version, and Malone's, he's been on our podcast. He's a friend. He's got me to do some drag race stuff, and he's the modern version of that. But with all like TV stuff that I worked with when I had the TV show, there was people in the studio at those other rooms that weren't even car guys, and they would be the scripted guy. And how their quick memory, they could just look at something, okay, I got it, and go off on a 10-minute tangent from something they read for 30. I was like, how do you do that? I can't do that. But to ask them something about a car, they couldn't do it. But their voice and their TV presence were awesome. There was only a couple of those guys, but the rest of them were like, I call him a TV weatherman because his personality was so good. And,
you know who's really good that no one talks about is Cameron Evans. Anything with a motor on it. And the business end of it. He's the go-to guy for me. If I have a question about anything, like whether it's chemicals, whether it's racing, he's like way underrated. You should have him on this show.
I need to. Yeah.
I'll tell him about it because he would be your best guest ever. I'm telling you. You could talk to him about anything too. That's what's cool.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time. I got to know him before he was on the TV because he put some of our cars when he worked at Popular Hotrodding in the magazine. So yeah, we've known him for. Of course, I was a huge fan of his dad, so that helped too. So okay, you do that after the IHRA car and they killed the class. Then what was the next step up?
Well, we did that IHRA race, Epping 92. And then we looked at the schedule, NHRA schedule, and we looked at well, Topeka's not that far, so let's try going to Topeka. And that was our first NHRA national event.
Or what year was this?
That was 92.
Okay.
And we ended up winning best appearing car, but we barely qualified. And we found out soon after it's because I wasn't driving the car all the way to the finish line. You know, I was brand new. I think I only had like 4 full laps. And when I looked at the computer, when I learned how to set the proper zero on the race pack, I remember Glenn Micris the next year was showing me, he was like, you ran a 540 with the 3, the bump was 540 with the 0, and you shut it off at 529. I'm like, shit, yeah, it's so fast, you know, there's no way to learn that crap, you know, it's just like being on fire or laying over, you know, when a car's laying over, how do you know that unless you've been there? Because when it's laying over, it's still the fastest goddamn thing you ever drove in your life.
Yeah.
So you gotta, it's kind of like cliff diving in Acapulco. You know, eventually it's going to be the first one. You could read all about it. You could watch, you could take notes, but eventually it's going to be the first time where you're going to go, all right, here we go. And that's kind of how it was with the car. And I was never really nervous about, blowing it up. The parts wise, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any backup shit. So it was kind of cool because if I would have got into like, say, John Force's car, it's like, here, you could on Monday drive my car. I would have been sweating bullets about my safety. But when it's your own crap and you really don't know what you're doing, I'm just worried about breaking stuff or hitting the wall. And if we break this body, we're through. So the fear factor was towards the parts, not about me. So it was a good way to learn, I think. But to do it all over again, I would have done it like Tim Wilkerson did it. You know, he was a acclaimed alcohol racer. He was really good. But he just bought Spurlock's operation and had the tune up. And there was no real learning curve. Like we went through so much bullshit, just learning how to start the car without killing somebody. You know, all these little things that, you know, we didn't know shit, nothing. You know, how I learned, I used to remember National Dragster in the back, they had the directory, and I'd go back there and I would like call Ralph Gore. I would call Lanny McGleasy, Tommy Faust over at AFT and L&T. He worked at both. And I would call these guys like after hours, like, hey, do you got a sec? And I had my list of questions. Like Ralph Gore was more than generous with his time. You know, he didn't even know who the hell I was. He's like, oh, geez, here's this kid again. But I would ask him, like, you know, or I would call Tommy Faust, like, when you're setting the clutch, you know, here I am in my dad's garage with the phone on my, like, when you're saying 40, and, you know, he would go through all of it. I learned so much shit from the phone, talking to people that knew how to do it. That was my education. That was my college. You know, I didn't go work on a Nitro team for 2 years, although I wish I would have learned a lot more. But yeah, just looking back at how we learned, man, I could have been dead 10 times and no one would have questioned it, you know? Lucky.
So that when you raced that, what was that class that you were in when you raced your first NHRA event?
That was Nitro Funny Car, man.
Okay. So you put the pro body on that chassis that you had the Topolino body on?
Yeah, they were just interchangeable bodies.
Okay.
Similar to like Mark Lindsay when he was with the Mob. You know, they used to run a fuel altered and a funny car.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Never did run that Fiat though. I ended up selling it. Once we did the NHRA thing, it was like, that was it. No going backwards now. Now it's time to figure out how we're going to do this financially, you know.
You got the taste and it was like, here we go.
Yeah, it's like the first taste, you know, of IV heroin. No
So what
going
was the
back
next
now.
step after that first NHRA event? Did you race just one NHRA race that year? Did you get again, or did you go home
Well,
and
that
work?
was October. That was
okay.
I believe it was either the first or the second race ever at Heartland Park. So there was only like I think Ennis, Dallas, and then Pomona, and then that 92 season was over. And we didn't travel all that way out. We didn't have a proper rig to do that. But then we came back in 93 and we ran, I want to think like 12 races. The first 8, I think, we were tuning it ourselves, and we quickly found out this ain't going to work. So Nicky Bonifant started helping us. Him and Dave Landau, they were both working for Coletta's on Scott Coletta's dragster. And I used to drive up there on the weekends up to Ypsilanti and buy all their like one-run floaters, some of their discs, a lot of their parts. They would sell, 10 cents on a dollar. That's pretty much how we got our inventory, was Coletta's used stuff. But Nicky's the one that talked me into it. He's like, Dean, you're never going to drive and tune this thing and get to where you want to go. You need to get somebody. And he recommended Glenn Micris. And he was really good for us, because not only was he a knowledgeable tuner driver, so he could help me with my driving, but he was like a super disciplinarian. And we all thought he was over the top at first, like, Jesus Christ, what's with this guy? But what he was telling us is, this is dangerous. This isn't like taking your alcohol car out, When you put nitro in the tank, it can kill people. And we quickly learned that there's no effing around. This isn't fun. And because we were all young, how do you not have fun racing a nitro car? But we definitely got serious. Then the car started running good. I think towards the end of the year, we were running with everybody else 5.0s. We had the same parts as everybody else, just not 10 of them. We might have had 2,
Yeah. So what was were you starting to get any co-sponsors, or when did the big sponsors start coming? How many years did it take to get to that?
Yeah, we ran, the first full year we ran was 94. 92, I ran the 1 run. 93, I think we ran, a dozen or so.
And how old are you now that you're driving NHRA? How old are you?
I'm 59. I'll be 60 this year.
Okay. So at that time, you're still a pretty young guy.
Yeah, I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
Born in 66.
Okay.
So, yeah, we ran, our first full year was 94. Then in 95 is when we started talking with Matco. They're local here, right down the street. And that was really put together by Doug Stringer. I don't know if you know Doug. He was good friends with Lance Larson, who we hired in 95. And he was working with Jim Epler's team as a sponsor coordinator. He's from Indiana, and he was into cup racing big time. That was his huge passion. And if you talk to him, he's a great guy. He's sharp. He knows the business. You just wouldn't, he's so tactful. He would get a sponsor for anybody in 5 minutes. He just had so many connections, knew how to not be pretentious in a boardroom. And he put 2 sponsors together like that for us, Matco and a company called Quickshine 99. It was a waterless wash and wax product, the best product I've ever seen. I ain't kidding you. It was made by Sherwin-Williams and then labeled by a Canadian company. And they were doing like an MLM at the time. And they said, look, we just got in, and this was a really good lesson at marketing for me. They just got into Walmart and they signed us. And we come to an agreement. It was I forget what, it wasn't a lot of money, like $150, 150 grand a quarter. And they had a party. We got into Walmart. Yeah, now we're going to be on Easy Street. Like 6 weeks later, Walmart calls them, hey, come pick up your shit. It doesn't move off the shelf just because you put it there. The marketing is the expensive part. You could have the best product in the world. You could get into Walmart or a huge marketing arm, but if you're not marketing, you ain't selling. It's hard. It's difficult. It's expensive. And they ended up having to take their name off the car because they went belly up. MLM can only take you so far. And that's where they were at. But it's a lesson that the best product in the world, you probably never saw it because it takes a lot of money to market it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what some people like. You market it like podcast. I think last night you said, or last week, or whenever it was. It's like we're racing people, whether it's bicycles, Indy cars, drag race. That's what we're into. NASCAR. So, like, if there's a Walmart and a Target, well, we're probably going to go to Target. Well, it depends on how you're dressed. You know, you can go to Walmart in your pajamas, right? But because Target sponsors more racing stuff than Walmart does. And if there's two whatevers, we like to support the people that support us, you know, and
Absolutely.
that's why these people put their names on race cars, because that's normally the thought process for people. It's like, oh, or whether they're subconsciously, oh, I know that. Why? I don't know. They don't know that they've seen it on a race car last weekend, but oh, I'll go buy that polish instead of this cleaner or whatever. So
Yeah.
and so you had Matco, which Matco's cool because when I was at my TV show, Matco was our tool sponsor. So it was, you know, they were still doing great marketing stuff all those years later. So you were Antron Brown before Antron Brown was the Matco guy.
Well, Matco, they understood the value of racing. But at the time that we signed, it was being run through their franchise development program. That's who was funded. You know, that's was the ball rolling down the hill was from franchise. And there was a guy by the name of Earl Farr, and they were involved in SCCA racing, which is great, but it's just, you know, it's not going to put the eyeballs on it like Cup or NHRA or IRL would. So that's what Doug Stringer and ourselves told them. Like, look, let's just try it out. We devised a great program where everything was third, right? You got corporate's a third, the franchisee is a third, and the racing team's a third. So anything incrementally that we do, let's say we come up with a Dean Skuza toolbox, third of the profit goes to corporate, third goes to the franchisee, third goes to the race team. Everybody's happy. Everybody makes the same amount. And the franchisees love it. They'll push it because they're getting paid. And it really excited them. I saw their company go, SCCA, there was only a few people that really got into that, the Trans Am series. But once we started doing the funny car, man, the amount of stuff that some of these distributors would sell, they couldn't even fit another collectible on their truck in the morning. And it gave them something to talk about with their customers on Monday morning.
So you went from
Skuza did
basically
really good.
2 years into racing, and you've got a tool branded toolbox and diecast cars within basically 2 years.
Right. Yeah, because we had an outlet to sell it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about those mobile tool companies. At the time, I think there was like around 1,800 to 2,200 distributors. So each one of those is like a little mobile store going right to the end user. It was a dream come true if it's a royalty-based sponsorship that you're after. We outsold everybody in collectibles because of that. Not because I was popular, because we had 2,000 people peddling this stuff. We outsold John Force by far 10 times what he would sell until he got on the Mac, and then Mac started doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mobile tool trucks. I mean, then we found out it doesn't even have to be automotive related. We started doing beef jerky deals, and whatever you could fit onto a tool truck, we would get a third of. Our entire budget was all incrementally royalties. No money out of pocket. I mean, that's why that program's still around, because it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah.
Perfect sponsorship.
How many toolboxes do you think were sold? Do you have a number on that?
They did every year.
Do you still have one? Do you still have one of your branded toolboxes?
Yeah, I have a hand painted one actually. That it was the prototype. I forget which year it is. I think it's the 96 one, but they did a lot of them, and the amount that they would do depended on the model. Like the big expensive ones, I think they would do like 800 maybe. Some of the smaller, more practical ones, I think they did 1,200, 1,500. those was a big chunk of our annual budget right there. I think they would do like about almost $1 million for us, royalties.
Wow.
Royalties.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. So what I've seen, you never won a championship.
No,
But
not
you
even
won
close.
you won some national events, and you're always in, like, at this time of that type of drag racing, how many cars were trying to qualify? Was there always
There's a
people that
lot.
were out? Like now, there's a lot of times there's not even a full field that shows up for an event.
Right. Yeah, no, there was always 23, 24 at a normal event. You know, it would vary. Some tracks
Mhm.
like Pacific Northwest, you might get 22. But like at Indy one year, I think there was 30.
Oh wow.
I remember one time there was 68 pro stocks at Indy, a
Jesus.
16 car field. You know, now they don't have a full field either. I was just talking to Cam about this the other day. I said, "Hey, Cam, not just motorsports, but any sport. Tell me a sport that's better now than it was 30 years ago." Maybe golf, and I wouldn't say it's better. I think it's just the same. There is none, you know. Why are we?
I mean,
Why is everything
they're
degraded?
they're better in that they're going, like, the speeds are ridiculous. But you know, we're Indy 500 fans. Nobody has broke Ari Leyendyke's qualifying record from 1997. Yeah, the
Right.
rules have changed.
Nor will they ever. Right.
Yeah, but like Nitro cars are going faster all the time. Everybody's setting records. They don't have as many big show cars because the expense of it, in my opinion. But like the last couple of weekends, they've had a sellout crowd. So the crowd still loving drag racing.
I will say drag racing is better in that the fuel cars there's more side by side races than there were, and that's just because of the rules. They let us, or I shouldn't say us, I don't race anymore, but they let the classes use electronic timers. You know, we were using air timers that were so unpredictable. You know, it'd go up 3 degrees. Oh shit, we better check the air timers again. And so, yeah, that makes it better. The ignition timings all, you know, mapped differently, more predictable, and instead of the pneumatic shit. That's better. You know, it's better to have side by side, you know, less tire smoke. And
Yeah.
but the sport as a whole, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just, I'm biased. You know, I like when it went to 1,000 feet, man, it was like a gut punch, man.
Yeah.
You know, so much shit happens in those last 300 and some feet. And now 8th mile. Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't. I love drag racing, but I can't do it. Can't do
That's
it.
what IHRA is doing, 8th mile, right?
I know. That's why I say I can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah. And we're getting ready to have Del Worsham on soon.
He's a
And
cool
he does
dude.
both.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting interview. So kind of out of context here, but not really. I've still got some more story of your time frame. You raced IHRA. It's like I grew up, IHRA was big and then small, then big and small. It was never NHRA, but in the Midwest, it was, IHRA was big. And then now, what do you think about IHRA trying to come back with their new owner and all of, they're bringing some tracks back that were closed. I mean, I think competition is good.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree.
if IHRA does well, it'll make NHRA do some things a little better. There's some stuff maybe gets pushed to the side. They don't have to worry about it because they don't have real competition. But what do you think about the IHRA trying to come back?
I'm in full agreement with you. I think competition breeds quality and value in anything. I think when Billy Meyer had it, I thought that was going to be it. I'm like, here we go. You know, here's an alternative that's going to take them both higher. But, you know, the way it was structured, and he has deep pockets, but man, with that rain for those year and a half, it just killed him. But I thought that was an interesting thing because what a great idea. You know, he had like 1190, 1090, 990, 890, not all these elaborate classes that the rules get swapped all the time. It was really easy to understand, very straightforward. He's a racer's racer, so you knew that it was going to be run properly. I wish that would have succeeded, because I think we'd be in a different place right now. What do I make of this new thing? I think I'm like a lot like everybody else. I just seems to be a lot of firings and hirings, and
yeah.
I don't know what to make of it, is to answer that question.
Yeah, and then we have a good friend that's been on our podcast. He's a Nitro boat racer, like holds a record in 1,000 and quarter. And he loves it because at first couple events of the year, the money was 3 times as much as it had been. But
Sure.
they've adjusted it because they thought more boats were going to come out to help pad that payout. And it didn't. So it's still higher than it was the last couple years. It's not as good as when Lucas Oil ran their race series. Lucas had their own boat racing series. And he goes, but it's good. But he goes, we only have like 8 races a year, so we can't, he's raced ARCA cars. He's got a new thing coming that I'm not going to talk about yet. We're going to get him back on the podcast, but he's a guy that he's going to get behind this wheel of whatever. But yeah, Nitro boats thing. And he was really excited.
Got stones, man. I wouldn't even sit in one of those things while it was running, afraid that it might go, because like, Ralph Gore got me into all that stuff when I told you I used to call him all the time. Like, he was working with Clinton Anderson before he got really hurt, and Freddie Neely and Jim Epler. A lot of those guys, they were all boat racers. And man,
Eddie Hill was too, right? Wasn't Eddie Hill a boat racer?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, go back. So you're racing. How long did the Matco deal last with you? And then I know you got a Mopar sponsor. Did you go back and forth? Was Matco always with you because you were the big Mopar branded for, like, that was your big thing there for a while, right?
Yeah. We signed Matco Tools in 95. And I think through 2000. So 2001, we ended up
That's a good time frame as automotive sponsorships go.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's a pretty good time frame for a lot of the automotive sponsorships. Last a year or two, and then they kind of dry up. But that's a pretty good record.
I could be honest with you. I'm not. There's no danger in talking about this now, but the way it really went down was at 2000. They said, "Look, we're going to go. Don Schumacher's going to give us 2 cars for less than what we're paying you." And I said, "Hey, you know what? Take it. You'd be crazy not to." I understand business is business.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, we still wanted, they were going to give us like 30% of what our deal was just for the wing. Kind of like so it doesn't look like it was a political move. That's the way I took it. Mm-hmm. I talked to my dad a little bit, and he said, "Hey, there's another tool company. I remember when I was a kid, and they're local too, Cornwell. Why don't we give them a call?" So I cold called them, and I talked to this guy by the name of Scott Martindale. Cool guy, really into supercross and moto. He had a couple bikes himself. He's like, "Oh yeah, we've been trying to get in. We just don't have no budget. Why don't we? Could we come out?" So they came out. We signed a deal, and it was more of we just didn't want to take the political handout. Look, if you're going to leave us, let's just break it. I'm not going to take, $400,000, which is great for a spill plate. F you. That's what that was. Cornwell's still around too. So
yeah.
And I love seeing it. I don't watch racing as much as I used to, but when I flip on the channel and I see Cornwell tools and Matco tools, that's prideful. They're still there, man. The stuff that we put together is still there, even if it's not us,
Yeah. Yeah. You were the first to bring Cornwell into drag race. That's a pretty cool feather in your hat, I think. That now
they had. When I say no budget, they had none. We were real creative on how they paid us and incrementally, and they were very small at the time, but they've steadily grew all due to the racing program. And it was a healthy growth. It wasn't like they tripled sales in 1 year. They would go up 5%, 6%, 8%. Now they have, I don't know, I didn't look into it. I don't know how many distributors they have, but just from the looks of it, when I'm driving around, I'm like, hey, there's a Cornwall truck. I would never see them before. So
Yeah.
I would say that they grew to a good level where I would say that that budget on that force car, if I had to guess, I mean, it's nowhere near what they're paying us, but I mean, Matco money. But it's hell of a lot more than we were getting for the last couple of years on Cornwall money. And that's good.
Yeah.
I love to see it.
Yeah. So then when did the Mopar deal come in?
That came in, actually, we were going to do 2 cars right before Matco said we're going with Schumacher. I already had the Mopar deal signed, and Bob Wykenet was going to drive the second car. And we were going to have Mopar on my car, Matco on the spill plate, and vice versa on the other car. And then Sherwin-Williams was going to be a real strong associate. We were going to end up with, that would have been the first time in my career that we were properly funded. We were going to end up with about $2.5 million a car, which would have been outstanding. We would have had a lot of money to test and deepen our inventory. But then, you know, that changed, so we couldn't do the 2-car thing. And it was probably better off, man. Not from a racing standpoint, but from a crew point. It's hard enough to keep everybody from fighting and, you know, the crew all rolling. These are young kids, and you know, that's the one thing when I look back on racing, I don't miss the 12:30 beer brawling. He, you know, screwing with my girlfriend, and I'm like, come on, guys, Jesus Christ, can't we all get along, you know? And I don't think that's ever going to change.
So at that time, how much, you don't have to say a number, but how much percentage more do you think it would take to run a properly funded Nitro Funny Car in today's market? Which we kind of talked about that. We're good friends with Larry Dixon, you know, 3-time Top Fuel champion, driver for Nabi.
Yeah, he would be the one to answer that because he's got his finger on the pulse, you know?
Yeah, and he's still got a Nitro car. He does the 2-seater car, and like we're building a 55 Chevy for him right now in the shop. Yeah. And there was a time when he was trying to get back in. Now he says, I'm too old to go, but he goes, I would be a team owner and have a driver.
Yeah,
and we were helping him with a couple people that help us to try to get back on. It's probably been 8 years ago. Like, went to some meetings or pitched some companies that support us that spend a lot of money at the TV program there. And how much percentage more from that time when you were almost properly funded, you said $2.5 million in a car, is that 3-4 times the amount of money now? Probably.
I don't think so. But here's something that's really important to understand, and it was the same as back then as it is now, is that the car in the hardline parts and the travel expense, hotel, insurance, blah, 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 everything there is always going to be the same, whether you are a low tier team or a high tier team. What separates the top 3 or 5 is payroll, crew chief payroll. And it could, you know, some of these guys are making lots and lots of money. Even back then, I mean, guys were making $300,000-$400,000 just the crew chief. And then you'd have a car chief that's making about half of that. So if you're going to put together a $2 million deal, you better look at that big chunk for 2 people right there. Yeah, I'm sure things haven't gotten cheaper, you know, cylinder heads and clutch, you know, clutch is that's where a big chunk of your perishables, you know, when we say perishables, everything's perishable on a fuel car. Every single thing has a number of runs on it. But yeah, I would say, like, look, you know, if you had all the equipment, like if I still had all our support equipment, transporter, I would feel like I wouldn't want anything other than $3 million to at least go, let's get our toes wet again. I would say that's minimum, you know.
I would say, yeah. I've had talks with Larry, and I thought at time he was like, "Oh, just to be there and to show up and try to qualify is this much. If we're going to be run for the title, it's double
What
of
did
what
he
you
say?
think just to show." Huh?
What numbers?
I was thinking back then it was like 5 to 6 to be a
Oh,
competitive car to go after a title, and he's got his car, he's got a modern car, he's got his semi rig, he's got all that stuff sitting there, and
right.
but he goes, yeah, but if you want to, like, we got some friends that do Nitro nostalgia cars, and their kid was doing clutch on one of the guys, like race 3 events a year. Woohoo! We qualified one time. They won the world championship because John Ford. They were 16 qualifier. Force was number one. Force shut off, and they qualified out of first round. They've never qualified out of first round. And like what you were talking, all their parts came from this person or this person's leftover parts.
Yeah.
Like when Schumacher was so big, that's what their team, when he downsized all that and sold off a bunch of stuff, he goes, that hurts the little guys because now there's not as much leftover parts that we could buy straight from Schumacher. Now you
Yeah,
have to
because he
find,
was a big chunk of it. If you think about how many cars he had,
yeah,
that was always our worry. I remember having that conversation with my dad and others. It's like, what if Schumacher decides that he's had enough? I mean, it could sink the sport. I mean, that's how it was getting. He kept every
yeah,
week it seemed he was adding cars, pro stock bikes. It's like it got he was too. It seemed like he was too large.
yeah, yeah. And we toured that place like 2 years before we were on a road trip tour with a car group, good guys. And it's like, that
Yeah,
place
it was
was, man,
like you can't see the end of it.
yeah, the room, the building, facility where all the semi rigs were parked, and then there's some of the lower dollar guys that were, bought on to some of their technology. Their rigs were. I want to say there was 12 semi rigs in that one area of everybody of different their
Hey,
teams and then the other sub teams, and it
I'm a
was,
capitalist, and I
yeah,
love it. Hey, let's do it. But what I don't like is every one of his sponsors was stolen. He didn't
mhm,
cultivate nothing. Everything
yeah.
was undercut. And that pissed me off and it pissed a lot of
Except when
people.
you've seen the Schumacher battery charger, because that was his company.
But I'm just saying, like, there was a um, Rob Gilbertson. Bob Gilbertson. He owns Trick Tank. He got a
Mhm.
letter addressed to him from Schumacher Racing saying that whatever that you're paying Gilbertson, we could do it for less and offer more value. He didn't even know that he owned the company. That's a true story.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, it's great to, like I say, I'm a capitalist, and there's no law against this. Okay,
Mhm.
it's not even unethical. I just don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. So, how long did the Mopar deal? Did Mopar last you till the end of your driving career?
No, we ran 2003 without Mopar. Um, we were trying to put stuff together. We were this close on a few things. We ended up running 2003 primarily out of our own pocket, in the hopes of we thought we were going to have money by Gainesville, and that one fell through. But we basically had Cornwell and Redline Oil and a few other smaller ones
Mm-hmm.
that foot the bill. But that was it. It was like we spent a lot of money that last year. Car ran really good towards the end of the year, um, but it's just too much to spend out of pocket. It
So,
just is.
what was the when it did it just put you out of drag racing because you couldn't sign the next sponsor deal, or were you just over it and ready to move on in life, or you got
It was
kids?
all finances. It was all financial. We worked for, geez, I want to say 4 years till about 2007, still trying to put deals together. I had
Mm-hmm.
so many things that would almost get us there, but I think it was more by principle. It's like, look, we put a lot of years into the sport. We didn't want to have to spend our money,
Yeah.
or my dad's money anymore.
Because
We
there's a
thought,
lot of
like,
people. Racing
we,
is as bad, not really, but technically, as a drug habit. I mean, you can go broke going drag racing. That's
yeah,
that's why I like doing announcing, because I can still be around and in the thick of racing, and I get a check at the end of the weekend instead of
Yeah.
because racers, even local dirt track guys or something's like, well, we could go to this race or we could pay the power bill. Let's go to the race and try to win some money and then try to pay the power. I mean, we all know people that have done that, whether at any level of racing, and the numbers are just bigger and smaller. But it's a lot. So when you were like when you had the Matco, what was your biggest year of staff that you had to pay, like crew members, crew chief? Like how big did you get? You talked about having the big race shop. Oh, how big did the race shop get? Like how big was the square footage of that place?
That was 15,000 square feet, and then we had bought a twin building. They were built in the same year, right next door, and that was also 15,000 square feet. But that was never used for racing. That was just a showroom for all of our collector cars that we were buying and selling. So yeah, we had 30,000 square feet. We always had a moderately sized crew. We didn't have a huge crew. If we did hospitality, my dad's wife would take care of that because, then you see a lot of these teams, they have 2, 3 extra guys for the hospitality end of it. So we always kept a very pared down crew, 4 guys. And, I would say our budget, like 2.2 mil we were spending a year.
Wow. So let's talk about so did you guys we'll talk about the collector cars, like a consignment shop or something like that? You bought and sold, or you were fixing up cars and selling them, or what was that process?
Yeah, it kind of started out as just my dad's personal collection and just got so large that it became a thing. Like not just a collection anymore. We're going to have to start moving stuff around. And after 2003, when we parked the car, that actually became our business, was buying, selling, restoring cars, and we'd ship them overseas and a lot of them local here. But it was just a way to keep the lights on. Everybody got a paycheck and it was fun. We go in every day and it's like, what are we working on today? Okay, we got this project. Then we built some cheetahs. My dad bought a bunch of fiberglass molds for the old cheetah sports cars. We built a few of those cars, chassis, everything. Just a way to keep, it was fun and everybody made money. And, but boy, I'll tell you, towards the end, it really dried up. We were moving, 30 cars a year, and then it went down to 2. And it's just sad to see. And I think everybody says it. It's just, if you go to like a car show, I know you got your finger on the pulse of this. It just seems like less and less young people. Hopefully there's enough young to replace the old fogies like us,
Yeah, there is less. There is still some out there, but like we probably talk about this on a lot, and when I'm on the microphone doing events, that there's still young families and young kids, but it's rare that you find a kid that just found hot rodding or sports cars or muscle cars that didn't grow up around it. It's rare. Like my generation, there was guys like, oh, I seen that car cruising, or I stumbled upon the drag strip, and my dad never went, but I, found Hot Rod Magazine or whatever like that. But now the kids that are into it, it's generational. It seems you find very few that aren't, whether their dad had cars or he was a fan, they found Hot Rod Magazine in their house or whatever like that. So when you guys, what type of cars was your dad in? Not thinking about selling them, what was him and you? What were you Mopar guys because you were Mopar sponsored? Were you street rod guys, pro street cars? What were you guys into?
Yeah, kind of like my dad's taste. He was all over the place. I mean, he liked the Tri-5s. He early 60 vets. He had a Hemi Belvedere, a lot of Hemi cars, Max wedges, anything, 60s, 70s muscle. I would say 70 to anything, up until 72.
Your dad has good taste.
Yeah, he does, man. That's no question.
Is your dad still alive?
Yeah, he's 84, slowed way down, but yeah, he's still kicking. And, I got to say, I've been blessed with great parents. I didn't realize it at the time, but in talking to a lot of my friends and my parents are just wonderful people. and I'm the only child, so they doted the hell on me. I just won the lottery when it comes to parents.
Yeah. Some people, we both were pretty lucky. Like, you don't always get along with your parents all the time, but
Yeah.
like you say, my dad was a foster kid, so man, the asshole stories that he has of his parents leaving him in a house when he was 3 years old to die and abandoning him is like, holy crap, man. There's some, yeah. So they say you have to have a license to catch a fish, but not to have a kid. There should be a
Yeah.
license. Yeah, it's weird. So do you have cars for yourself? Do you have any hot rod stuff now?
No, I got rid of my Challenger. Nope, I'm driving a 2012 Escalade. I think I just turned 40,000 miles on it. My wife got a lease. She's got an XT5. No, we're just real completely removed from it.
Okay,
Not to say I won't get something
thing
soon.
we missed. Let's go back to how did being on Popular Hot Rodding TV, how did that come about?
That was all Cameron. Met Cameron in a bar at the Hyatt in New Brunswick, Englishtown. I was sitting in the sports bar of the lobby there, and he came walking in, and I heard the voice. And I turned and I'm like, that's got to be Steve Evans' son. My God,
Yeah.
It looks like him, sounds like him, he's big. We talked and hit it off and started calling each other all the time. And just out of the blue one day, I remember I was up at the shop. I was just leaving. The phone rings and he's like, hey, the magazine wants to do a TV show. Who do you think would be a good host? I'm like, I think you should do it. He's like, well, no, I can't because he's like, how about you? I said, I don't know. I guess. And that's how it started. And Brad Kimmel from Bradley David Productions out of Evansville, Indiana, he came out to the shop. There's a video place right next to our shop. So he rented a camera. And all day long, we just used one of my dad's cars as a prop. And he gave me some lines, and went through the lines. And he's like, man, you're kind of stiff. Why don't you, loosen up a little bit? So I tried. I felt almost clownish, like this car here. That's what it felt like in my mind. And then he's like, here, I want to show you some of the playbacks. Can we play that back? And the guy had a monitor there. And there I am like, this model here is quite the car. You think you're being, video just saps the energy out of the
Yeah,
room.
it's a little deer in the headlights. Let's look your first couple times you're in front of the camera. 35
millimeter film does the opposite. Livens everything up, dramatizes everything up. Like the trombone shot in Jaws, it's just like energy. But video does the opposite, man. So that was my first lesson in. You got to be loose. You got to be. So I didn't think I even passed it, because it was so bad. And he's like, we'll let you know in a couple of weeks. And like months went by. Then they were still looking for people. I said, what about Ron Capps? He'd be good. And Cam agreed with me. I don't know if they ever tested him or not. And I'm not sure, maybe he just wasn't interested in doing it because it was a time commitment. But what we ended up doing right before they broke that screen test, Brad said, hey, Cam, why don't you, because we're not sure if this is going to be a 1 or a 2 host show. Why don't you get in there with them? And all of a sudden, it just livened up, I guess. He took the video back to Evansville and looked at it. He's like, yep, these guys, because we're friends. We like the same things. Kind of like you and I, we like the same music. We're culturally very similar. And
so speaking of Cam liking the same music, so this is totally out of pocket here. We were at an Optima Batteries party, which Carrie does some marketing stuff with Optima Batteries at the SEMA show. The year that they did they did a video thing, like contest for video. It was an awesome party. You know who they had playing at the Optima party at the SEMA show? X.
Who?
The Punk X, the punk
Oh,
band
really?
that started in like 1970. John Doe, Billy Zoom, and
Yeah.
the 5 of us knew who was playing. The rest of these I call autocross jocks had no idea. And right down in front is me, Cameron Evans, Mike from Willwood, and somebody else, and we're like, woo! We're like partying out. And it's like, it's X. You have no idea. And they're like, why does that guy look familiar? And I was like, okay, the people that aren't into punk rock, okay, he was the bartender in Roadhouse. Then they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, I've rocked out to X with Cameron Evans. So yeah.
It's funny how not just punk rock, but rock in general. All the pundits are, oh, rock and roll's dead, But it's really funny how all of that rock and roll, the stuff that they say is dead and they're never going to recreate again, is owned by all the big ad agencies. They don't have to worry about A&R anymore. They don't have to worry about putting them into the studio. They just take the great music because they own it and keep recycling it. You put on a Cadillac commercial and Zeppelin and things you'd never thought you'd see.
Yeah, I felt old when I was in a grocery store here not too long ago, and they were playing the Smashing Pumpkins in the grocery store. Like, it's classic rock now. It's like, oh my heart's dying. Yeah.
Did you ever hear like a Muzak rendition of it? Like what is that song? Like I know that song, and it's like something like a Black Sabbath song or something.
Yeah.
Muzak
turned into
version.
elevator music. Yeah.
It's like, wait, that's War Pigs in the elevator.
Yeah. So how many years did the popular hot rodding TV last? We were almost had a car because they would get cars on segments and stuff there.
Yeah.
And we're still a little kind of friends with the girl that used to book the cars.
Susan Church.
Yeah. And she ended up marrying Cole Foster because they met on a video shoot, and they're not together anymore, but we still know both of them. Cole's been on our podcast, and so yeah, we almost had our green 53 Buick on it, but we took it to SEMA. They wanted the car on, but we took it to SEMA, left it out there just to sell it, so we couldn't.
Yeah.
We didn't want to haul it back to where they wanted to film the car. Yeah, so we just never got on there. But
the first couple of years that show was taped on a soundstage in Evansville. And then the last, I think it was 3 seasons we were on. The last season was at the Prime Media in, what is that, Richardson or somewhere in North Dallas. Big Prime Media building. We went in there.
They wanted us to take it to Dallas, I think, because we lived in Illinois then.
I think they wanted it to go back to Indiana, and we already had it out in Scottsdale.
Phoenix, leaving it for an auction.
9/11 time, and we were afraid to fly.
Yeah.
So we left it out there.
Susan was great at that. She would handle all that stuff. Cam and I would fly in, and she had it all organized. Like, we're going to tape 7 days in a row, and all the cars would be, in line waiting to come in. And
so this was,
I didn't realize.
What years did the TV show ran? Was it early 2000? When we had that car, would have been 2000 or 2001.
I think it was like 99, 2000, 2001.
Okay. Yeah. And that's when you're hitting all the drag races at the same time.
What's funny is Cam and I were just talking not long ago that show used to do 2s rating wise. We didn't think anything of it then, but imagine if you'd put that show on now. I mean, I don't even think you'd get a couple 100,000 people watching it. That's my point about the youth in this sport. I just hope that it could. I think everybody every 10 years says what I'm saying because they want to see it live on,
So 2s, you were getting 2 million viewers?
Yeah, and that was just for one viewing, and it was shown twice a weekend.
Yeah, and my show was on the Power Block, and I remember for the Power Block shows at that time when I was there 15 years ago, my show set a record for the most Power Block viewers they ever had. Was one episode of a street rod truck, and it was almost 800,000 viewers.
That's
but when
about
they sold the ad sponsorships, they would say, "Oh, we're going to get you 3 million viewers for your ad money," because they count every rerun. Oh, this one might get 500,000. The rerun in 6 months will get 300,000. They add that all up. That's what I learned about TV. But then they busted my bubble because I was like, oh, might be time to ask for a raise. And they're like, no, it was only the last 10, because when they have all those ratings, they can the beginning, the end, and break it down in the segments. They're like, it was the last 10 minutes because it was like, oh, there was I don't know, a football game coming on right after, or a Thanksgiving parade or something. People just turned their TV in and it's like, broke my heart. But I still had, at that time, I had the highest rated viewed. It still counted. But yeah, not even a million viewers were they getting.
I just remember Cam called me one time. He's like, we outrated drag racing. And that was something special because I was thinking about putting, proposals together for the following year. And I'm like, yeah, that is really something. I didn't ever think about this as being like a huge vehicle for the racing program.
Yeah.
But if our ratings are higher than NHRA, but if you look at NHRA's ratings, you could go back 30 years to like the old American Sports Cavalcade. It's exactly the same. It's just because that's the demo, and it's, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you get somebody in marketing that's going to try something new, that's going to pour some money into it. But just like when we started this podcast, marketing is really expensive. But it really intrigues me, with these influencers and TikTok, and I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I just know that for a little bit of money, you could do a lot these days. You just have to know how to utilize it.
Yeah. You don't need a camera crew in a studio when you have this.
Theo, come here. Now here's going to be our next marketing guy. My grandson, Theo.
Hi.
He's a good kid.
Does he have any
I'll have to get
interest
some
in drag
pointers.
racing?
Yeah, well, I'll get some marketing pointers from him. You should see how he navigates apps I've never heard of.
Yeah. Does he have any interest in cars or drag racing?
Yeah. Awesome.
I ride bikes.
You know what he's got? He's got his dad's old bike, which is a Harrow Dave Mira, the Chrome Molly frame.
Yeah.
It's a cool bike. He loves it.
That's a collector's item. That's a big collector's item. Yeah. So, like, again, being friends with Larry Dixon, his kid had no interest in racing at all.
That's how my kids are.
And he got almost like a senior, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I think I want to go to the drag strip." And they went in the streetcar. Now he drives a comp dragster. He was driving. It was just, he goes, I wasn't forcing him into anything. And then all of a sudden, he's driving for somebody's comp dragster car. And then now Larry, last year at the regional finals, Larry went, his kid was driving somebody from the West Coast because their finals was in Vegas the weekend after SEMA. And Larry's like, I did the most dad thing ever. In the BMX world, we call that factory dad syndrome. He goes, I realized my kid might have better talent than the car that he's in, so I bought a comp dragster for him. They bought a used one, but now Larry has a comp dragster for his son to be driving, so he's doing the dad drag race thing coming up. So
back to the gravel.
Yeah. And then his kid's he bought a Chevelle. And he's tearing it down, and he says, I bought it. And he goes, and then the next thing you know, I come home after being gone for a weekend. He's got it in a million pieces. He's like, well, I guess we're restoring a Chevelle. so yeah, his kid went from not having a lot of interest, and yeah, he'd go to the races, and now he's all into it, and went to marketing in college and all of that stuff to learn the business side of it too. And his kid's just the coolest kid ever. I mean, it's got Larry Senior, Larry Junior, they all got movie star hair. I mean, they all have the best hair in the business.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
My
cool that you never know what your kids are gonna just have the switch to turn it on. So
my kids never, but the thing, to be fair, Donnie was born in 97 and 03 was our last year. So I think if we would have raced a little bit longer, he probably would have been interested.
Right.
I got pictures of him sleeping in the pits during a warm up. He's got his ear protection on. Those fumes are just horrible, and he's just like.
So you never did junior dragsters with your kids, or they had no interest in that at that time, or you were just over the sport by that time?
yeah, he never really showed interest in it or had interest in automotive
Yeah.
in particular, like I did. Like I remember asking my dad, like, how does an engine work? And and Theodore, check this out. He just built this. It's a little 289 that actually works.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
He put it's from Germany. I found it online, but it's got the firing order and everything.
Oh,
You
that's
actually
cool.
see
Awesome.
the
Yeah.
rocker arms moving and stuff.
Yeah.
Really,
That's really cool.
So he knows
But it-
how a camshaft works now.
Yeah. So the grandson seems like he might be to the age that it's time to get a junior dragster. Have you thought about that process yet?
Think loud.
Oh, it's still running. Did you hear my question?
Okay, go do it again. The thing was still going.
It's
Friggin'
like
loud,
the grandson looks like he might be ready in the proper age to get him a junior dragster. Have you thought about that program
Yeah,
yet?
that and dirt bikes.
Yeah.
I was just watching Denver yesterday, Mile High, and he's like, "Could you get me one of those, Grandpa?" He doesn't live here. He lives with his mom in Indiana, about 5 hours from here. But yeah, I think he's either going to get a little KTM or maybe a dragster. We'll see.
Awesome.
Cool.
Very cool.
Do you have any thought process of being around, not just being like the grandpa, of being around the sport anymore? If, like Larry says, even if the money was there, he wouldn't get back in a car full time, but he would be a team owner. Do you have any thought process about that? If somebody would just drop a bucket of money at your doorstep tomorrow, would that be a process that you would think about, or no?
I think I'm in agreement with Larry, and I could tell you why. Um, there's not a carnival ride that I don't like. I love them all. The more violent, the better. Matter of fact, I always say you haven't lived until you tip a meth addicted carnival operator a 20 on the zipper. Did you ever see that? To put it on high. I mean, it's like you don't know where the hell you're at for about a half hour afterwards. But I went on just 2 years ago. I went on Millennium Force at Cedar Point with my youngest son. And I've been on that thing, I don't know, a couple hundred times. And for the first time, I didn't like it. I got out. I was like, "You want to go again?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm gonna go get a coffee." And I'll tell you, it just felt like the only way I could describe it is like it was ahead of me. I used to love that feeling, and I just didn't like it. And at that time, I said, "You know what? I bet you I wouldn't like the feeling in the car because
Yeah.
I've been on that roller coaster so many times, and I love the feeling of your gut dropping, and I didn't like it." So
Yeah.
just age,
We're past roller coasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They give me a headache now.
Yeah. They hurt my head too. Yeah. Yeah.
My guts are all over the place.
So what are you doing in life now that you've left the sport? You sold the buildings, you said. So you said you're kind of almost looking for your next excitement thing. So what's daily
Exactly.
life now for Dean Skuza?
Yeah, this summer obviously is baseball and Theodore. He's in rec league here in Brecksville, and then every year he does Guardians Camp, which is the team, the Cleveland Guardians, the Indians. They put on these 2 week long baseball camps, and it's grueling. It's like 7 in the morning till 4 p.m. Monday through Friday for 2 weeks, and they just get after it. So after this summer, when he goes back to school, that's when I'm going to think, got to do something. There's got to be a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah. So your dad, he doesn't have his business anymore? Did he sell that?
Yeah, he sold that in like 2000, I think.
Okay. So you guys are just kind of semi-retired together now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, he slowed way down. He just turned 84 in February.
Yeah.
But he's still clipping around and stuff. But he's such a type A person. It's hard to get him to sit down. And now he just doesn't have the energy to do the things that he likes to do. So
Yeah.
for
My
me,
dad's
I don't mind sitting and
a
reading.
heavy guy, so he's still into his cars. He's 79. Has to get a defibrillator coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh, really?
And he's had open heart surgeries, 2 new knees, ripped the thumb off, but he still runs 450 acres of farmland and 100 head of cattle at 79 years old.
Wow. Yeah, farming is the most work you'll ever do.
Yeah, yeah, nonstop. That's how I learned to work. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So what is one event, or what's your favorite event that you love to go to? And is there any event out there that you've never been to that's on your bucket list?
You're talking about anything?
Anything.
Could be anything. Yeah. Could be like when we talk to a lot of hot rod people, it's like, oh, I want to go to this car show or whatever, or a racer. Oh, I've never done this or whatever. Or in music, you could, oh, I want to see this band in person or whatever.
Well, it's a good question. If you'd have asked me this about 4 years ago, I would have said I'd like to go to Italy. I've never been there, but what's going on over there? It's like you don't even want to go there anymore. I really don't have any place I'd like to visit. An event would be, I'd probably go to like a hootenanny that's got a good lineup, like Social D, Super Suckers, Reverend Horton Heat. I've never been to one of those things.
Yeah, we've seen most all those bands, but never at a big. Now we've been to a lot of music festivals, and Bonnaroo's just south of us, and you see the stuff online. I don't think I want to go to one of those week-long music festivals and sleep in a tent. I want to go someplace where I can leave, go to a hotel. I might want some air conditioning during the day, like losing your, you're not a big roller coaster guy now. It's like, man, those big music festivals.
We are officially those people that when we go to a concert, we look for the seats.
Yeah, like we have Social D tickets in the fall, and we have front row on the balcony to see from right by the stage side. And I went to see Marilyn Manson with some guys here a few weeks ago. It was like we just stood general admission. I was okay, but your back hurts, and I'm past the age to get in the pit. I might push somebody back in the pit.
I was going to say you're not in the pit then, yeah.
Yeah, the one guy I went with, I realized he doesn't like strangers touching him, and I was like, well, we don't need to get general admission standing at a heavy metal show again. Right. So yeah, you got all freaked out. So yeah, we go to the seats for the punk rock shows now. Yeah,
I quit drinking a long time ago, so like 2007, I think. So that really changes what you're talking about. Seems like when you drink the way I used to drink, get in the pit. It doesn't matter. Yeah, when you're sober, it's like I'm like you. Like I'm looking for comfort. I want to enjoy the show.
Yeah,
changes your whole outlook. And then getting older.
Yeah, too. We're not partiers. We don't drink, so we're always the designated driver for our drunken idiot friends. So yeah, but we still used to get in the pit. You got kicked in the face in a pit in Chicago one time. Yeah, somebody was crowd surfing and they dropped her, and she had the big mark on the side of her face. So
they still wear those. Most of the time I see guys just wearing tennis shoes, but back when I went to my early shows in Athens, Ohio, everybody had the combats and straight. There was a big straight edge following down there. I mean, like hundreds of skinheads with the long trench coats.
That's kind of why I'm a straight edge, and I got a straight edge tattoo, but I wasn't a skinhead. But there were skinheads by the punk club that we used to go to all the time. So
I think these were straight edge, but they just shaved their head. I don't really believe they were skinheads. It was like an off sect.
Davenport, Iowa place I used to go to, there was a little group of what I call the militant skinheads that come in, and there was always fights that would break up before the night. So yeah. So, okay, being a music thing, this is a question I have. How did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame end up in Cleveland, Ohio?
Well, because that's where the term was born by a DJ named Alan Freed. He had a radio show here locally. And they used to have what they called Moondog concerts, and they would put together, kind of like the Lollapalooza of the day. Buddy Holly and some of these early Bill Haley. And but the thing is that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is here, but they always do the inductions in New York, just because it's a bigger city, has more allure. Like no one wants to come to Cleveland, It's almost like punishment,
Yeah. And you still live in Cleveland?
Yeah, I live 13 miles south of Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, we've been to the museum once or twice. and then we sold a car to a guy that lived
Uh, something Falls.
Chagrin Falls.
Chagrin Falls
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
And then we went one time to a cruise in Salon or Salone.
Solon.
Yeah, huge, like
Yeah.
over 1,000 cars, like during the week. And we had a car that we sold to a guy in Akron, that one in Chagrin Falls, and we brought a car, so we had 3 of our cars on display at that. And it was an awesome night. It was really the amount of callers and the quality that was still. I think that cruising still goes on. So
It does, and it's my dad used to go to that thing all the time. I think it's still going.
Yeah. Well, that's about all. I don't have any questions. I would just like take notes as we go, and usually we would tell people to where to find you on social media. If you can find you on Instagram. I don't do Facebook, but you're still out there, but you're not promoting anything. So
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like I got nothing to plug, but it's good. You can ask me all kinds of in-depth questions, and I could answer them now. But I will say this, I'll leave you on this, is that thank God that social media wasn't around when I was around, because oil and water, man. I got myself in so much trouble. Absolutely, man. I was signing autographs this one time, and this guy brings a picture blown up, and it's of an ass. I'm thinking, why does this guy want me to see? He goes, "That's you. Last year you mooned me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So little things like that, I'm sure the sponsors would have loved that.
Yeah. Now there's cameras everywhere, and that is one question. So you were a racer at the time when the internet kind of started. So did you guys? There was this is a question I've never asked anybody. To promote the race team, did you have a MySpace page?
No, as a matter of fact, MySpace didn't pop yet. I was still on. I had a website. I remember. And at the time, it was like the top rated website in NHRA because people just didn't get it. Do you know Jared Felix? He used to work at Oakley. He was with Gennard, and he was really savvy with back when you had to know HTML and all that to put on a web. Anyone just couldn't do a website. You had to know coding.
Right.
He did my website for me. And it had 15, 16 pages back, like when that was a lot, that was bragging, But no, I go back to like Prodigy, old dial-up. Do you remember CompuServe and AOL? I still have an AOL account. It's I use it just for specific things, but I'll never get rid of it because it's like a badge of honor to have been around back then, You've got mail.
Yeah. So that's one thing that, like we were talking about promotions and videos and stuff like that like you say, you had to know coding and stuff. Now you could just I am not the tech person. She is the tech person, and she builds websites for major events and updates stuff and does all this stuff. But you could almost read a little bit for a week and click and you could have a generic website put together because it's just easy. They take out a lot of the stuff. I remember
trying to do mine, and you might just have one space wrong, and then you hit enter, and it's just your picture's down there, and this is frustrating. Is it not to say that it's super easy now, but it's at least it's a lot easier.
So in your time in the drag racing, you probably didn't have that. Now, a social media manager for a major race team, that's a good gig. Like, because they're videoing and posting and interviewing and doing dances for TikTok in the pits and all of that stuff. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame now.
It's cool, but it's almost more challenging because now you've got a lot more noise to contend with. You got to be creative, and it's always been that way. If you think about music, when I was in high school, if you wanted to put out something that was radio playable, it was going to cost you 30 grand in a studio. Now guys do it on their cell phone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the music any better, Right. It just makes more people, it's still hard. You still got to, writing a 3-chord song that someone's going to whistle to, is still difficult.
Yeah.
Same with movie making. God, like a cell phone. There's actual movies that have Academy Award nominations that were made on an iPhone 15.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like I remember Super 8 with no sound, and you have to wait 2 weeks to get it developed, and then you get it back and it was underexposed.
Yeah.
Again,
One of our great
it doesn't
friends
make
here
better
in
movies.
Nashville,
It just makes more people in the game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that
And that's
industry
like
is
promotion. You're trying to, like, I'm sure if I was racing now, my son or grandson would have some type of a blog about it. But what's going to make
Right.
it stand out?
Yeah.
Got to have that.
Yeah. Our good friends in Nashville, he was an intern on like Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. Then he moved to Nashville, does country, and he's just doing his second run right now for Kenny Chesney at the Sphere. Does all the video and all that, but has been, when the budgets of all these huge videos in the country world was like millions of dollars for a budget. He goes, then now you got these guys competing with you with their phone and they're still in college. And he goes, so that industry's changed. He's done movies for Warner Brothers and all of that stuff. So everything's always changing, sometimes for the good, sometimes not for the good. And
The day of
but yeah,
the rich rock star is over,
yeah.
It'll never happen again. I would say, like you mentioned Smashing Pumpkins. They're probably the last era of guys making good money.
Yeah. I mean, they're
After
still
that,
it's different, but like we also have a car in there. We're doing maintenance for Jerry Horton. He's the guitarist for Papa Roach. He lives in Nashville now.
Mhm.
And he wants another car built. And he's like, oh, until we sell so many millions of records again, I'm probably not going to have that frivolous money. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still doing good. He's in Germany right now, or Switzerland, as the family posted today. And they're still selling out shows and new albums and stuff. But he goes, you don't sell an album anymore. You stream it, and you got 3 released songs, and people aren't lining up to buy your new record or CD at the record store anymore. I mean, there's hardly record stores around.
Nope.
And it's a whole different thing. We make our money touring and selling merch. He says that's where our money comes from now.
And they still have to give up a cut of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, well, that's about all I got. I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I was always a fan of yours. I don't know where I've met you a few times at the show. I do have one question. When you guys used to do Popular Hotrodding TV, you guys did segments every once in a while where you both wore mullet wigs.
Yeah.
Did you guys have nicknames? Were you like a different persona or something? Like Hans and Franz on Saturday Night Live, or did you have nicknames?
It was actually 2 of my crew members had mullets, Rod and Paul. Rod Centorbi and Paul Tukolsky. Paul Tukolsky was the clutch guy, and Rod Centorbi was my bottom end guy. And they both had beautiful, glorious mullets. Painstaking. If you shared a hotel room with them, the hair care products were half the counter. So that was actually Cam's idea. He's like, we always thought that that's who we were spoofing on. But when he's like, we should have shirts on with our names on it. We could mechanic shirts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, you do it. You're going to have to deal with them, not me, So that's where that came from. That was really funny. And, Brad Kimmel, our producer, actually was writing a screenplay about the Mullet Brothers. And then Joe Dirt came out about right when that was happening.
Yeah.
And Cam's like, Brad, just don't put any more effort into it. This would look like a copycat, This is bad timing.
I'd still watch a show called The Mullet Brothers. I totally would. Do you still have the mullet wig someplace around the house? Do you have the wig?
I think that was Susan Church.
I'll ask Susan if she still has the mullet.
Yeah, they belong in the Smithsonian.
yeah, or at least like the Peterson Museum, and or a drag race museum. Yeah, all right. Well, cool. We want to thank Dean Skuza for being a guest on the Strange Motion Way podcast. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
The Strange Motion Way podcast, brought to you by
Royal Purple. Premium synthetic motor oils and high-performance chemicals have been designed to improve performance, provide long-term protection, and give you the confidence to push your vehicle to the limit. Royal Purple Premium Synthetic Motor Oils.